everyone, you are watching ITV Gold and I'm your host Aditi Lamba. Welcome to another edition of Inside Scoop where we bring you prominent personalities from here and India. On the show today, I'm so excited to have somebody who's definitely considered the female media tycoon here in the South Asian media industry, somebody who's given years of dedicated work to really bringing for South Asian American voices, and we're so excited to talk to her about the place of South Asian Americans right now in this country and all the work she's done, especially for the Sikh American community. So on the show, let's welcome one of my favorites from the industry, Gurmeet. Sodhi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Aditi, for that wonderful introduction.
Did you like
it's
it?
a pleasure being here. Thank you. I did. I loved it.
It's a pleasure having you here. You know, there are so many, individuals like me that have looked up to you, and certain individuals who have really set a platform for South Asian media in this industry especially. You've done years and years of grassroots level work. Talk to me a little bit about starting off as a South Asian American Punjabi woman here and sticking to the field and also literally dedicating everything to just, empowering voices. Talk to me a little bit about that journey. It's been incredible, I know.
The journey is actually really interesting because it started right here from this room. Yeah,
wow.
This is where I did my first show about almost 19, 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
This is where I started. So when I walked in through the doors today, I was like, oh my God, this brings back memories. And it's so beautiful to come back here because it always gives you that warmth and it reminds you where you started from.
Definitely.
And it's a beautiful place where this channel is.
Yeah.
And it's grown leaps and bounds since I was here, of course. But I think, starting off, at that time, it was more like, okay, what do I do? How do I do? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong?
Right.
Because there was really no guidance per se. It was, okay, let's try it. It's a trial and error every single time. But thank God, the community was always there to support and say, okay, we liked what you did, but they also criticized you. And they really gave you their honest opinion to say, okay, you shouldn't have done this, or this didn't sound right.
Yeah.
So it really was a nice way to build yourself up, but overall I think the journey has been good. It's been tough being a woman in the industry to carve yourself a name, to stand out among the men, but you have to push. You really have to push and trudge your way through, and you can't just back down because somebody else thinks they're better, not because they are, but just because they think they are. You have to just keep proving yourself time and again. It's sad, but you know what? If you believe what you're doing is the right thing and you're doing it well, just keep going at it. You'll only get better.
Talk to me about, it's a really great aspect you brought in, being a South Asian American woman, then choosing to really signify and sort of bring on the platform straight South Asian media voices, talking about the community, going in the community. Was it hard being a woman trying to represent the community, which at times, especially during that time, was very, very, very patriarchal?
Yes.
How did that work out for you?
It's so funny you say that because I remember when I started doing this and when I was out and though I came from a strong business background, people still, when I would be out in the community doing interviews and stuff, they would think like, what? She's probably one of those bored housewives sitting at home, has nothing to do and she's doing this. Not that thinking that, what, she might have a passion to do this or what, she's good at what she does. But it's not ever like, what, okay, she's as good as the guy next door. It was more like, oh, what, okay, so she's a young girl who just, wants to have some time pass. And what better way to do it than just be out in the media? But really, that's not what my passion was. My passion really was to give a voice to people, to let them know that, what, if they have an issue, there is a platform for them to address it. And there was a platform that this channel also gave to say, what, there are things we need to talk about. There are things we can't push under the carpet all the time. So from that perspective, it was tough to break barriers, to talk about things that nobody spoke about. But in the end, it was a good journey.
What kept you sane during that time? What really kept it going? You've led some of the most incredible networks here that have literally taken their birth in the US, and they are still working, they're still prospering. We're also one of them. So you've really seen it all, explore before all of the television networks came out. So talk to me a little bit more about that.
What keeps you sane? Gosh, you know what? That's an interesting question. That's like me asking you, what makes you want to come back here the next day? So I think it's your passion and your drive that really pushes you because you know what? people will pick on you for good or bad.
That's true.
But you really can't let that get to you, because there were so many times where I would go home and I would take a copy of my own show. I would take it home to see, okay, what did I do wrong? How can I fix this? And because I was doing a live talk show.
Yes.
So people would call in, and you have a topic you're talking about. Mine was a financial show, and I was talking about, home financing and stuff. And they would call and they would talk about weather, they would talk about another issue. And it's like, you know what, are you insulting my intelligence here? What do you think I'm doing?
Right.
But you know what, you have to keep at it. And the best thing is just say, you know what, there are all kinds of people. I can't make everyone happy today. And you just have to keep going at it. And I think my biggest sanity was my husband. My husband and my kids. My husband was my best critique, and he was my worst critique. He really was, because he would be the one, he would tell me, okay, you know what, you got to fix this. You can't, you have to improve a little on this.
Yeah.
That was the only person telling me what can I do to get better at it.
That is so true.
And that really was my grounding for my sanity.
Do you think when you're looking at the South Asian media space now, with more networks in, with us legit, as I say, having spaces now on all television platforms and digital spaces in which there are people subscribing to our network, do you think that spaces for talent here, media voices here, has increased over the years? What is your personal take on it?
In America?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. I think I see now women, especially young girls.
Right.
I mean, look at yourself. You went into journalism. That's not a field a lot of people would promote 20 years ago for their daughters to be in.
That's true.
Like, you know what? Who goes into media? Do you know what media world is? You know what? Media world is beautiful.
Yeah.
It really, it can make a person, it can break a person, but it can make a person also.
That's so true.
And have I seen the changes? Yeah, women are so much more stronger now. And they're like, you know what? If this is what I want to talk about, if this is what I believe, I'm going to make sure I talk about it. So you see these changes in the media, and you also see the changes in the audience, where there were things they didn't want to talk about. They didn't want to hear about it. They knew the issues there, but they don't want to hear about it or talk about it. But now they've become more acceptable, because they see their kids growing up here to say, you know what, this is something we need to talk about, because it happens in my home too. So I think the change, there's a huge change. And I think it's a good change, because we see so much new talent, and it's so enriching to see our culture. The kids that are born here, raised here, they have the values of this country, but at home they're being taught their Indian values.
That's so true.
Their Desi values, your Pakistani values.
Yes.
So they're bringing that and this.
that,
So I
yes.
think they're a perfect blend of the East and West mixture.
Yeah.
So when you see that on the screen,
That's
it's
good.
like, oh my God, they've done it so much better than I have.
That is so true. I mean, definitely, we have seen such an increase in space, in conversations, and just getting more, as I say, brown faces on air. What's your take when you're looking at the bigger media spaces here? You're looking at, big American television networks. I know you've worked with a few of them yourself, and you still continue to do. What do you think is still, preventing those South Asian faces to show as much as perhaps they should be? At times we do get, this critique we hear from everywhere, that there are not enough of us, represented on national scales, on national platforms. Now, how do you sort of break that? And what's your take, when you're looking at the media space just in general?
Okay.
How do you look at it in that aspect?
So I'll turn this table on you now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you had an opportunity to apply for a job, right? You applied at ITV. It's a great South Asian channel,
Correct.
right? We are just as national as all other mainstream medias. Why did you not apply or take a chance to go to even a smaller local network?
Right.
Or why did you not go there? Okay. Be it in New Jersey, be it in New York, be it anywhere in the country.
Right.
Why didn't you apply? I'm not saying go to Fox and CNN and everything, but why didn't you go for, News One or, Channel 12 News kind of thing? I think it's our own inhibition that's stopping us to say, you know what, I'm not sure if I'm that good that I'll get
Make it there,
recognized there. Or I'm not sure if I'm there yet.
Yes.
But I feel like, you know what, if you don't try it, how do you know you're not that good? You might be better, and you just might be the talent and the face that media is looking for. So I feel like, and when I stumbled upon American media, when they called, and it wasn't like, oh my God, they chose me. To me, it's like, you know what, it's about time they chose me, because you have every other ethnicity on the mainstream media.
That's so true.
But how often do you see a South Asian face among the mist. Now it's become almost mandatory to have a Hispanic, a Caucasian, an African American.
That's true.
You know, you see all of them on the mainstream media,
Yeah.
but you haven't yet, and Indians are huge in population here.
So true.
And you don't see that. But I think it's our own inhibitions. It's the fear of the unknown that stops us.
Yeah.
So I think next time anyone wants to apply in the media, you know what? Yes, apply for your local channels, but you know what? Go apply for mainstream media local channels also. See how you do, because you know what? If you don't get it there, if you don't make it there, that should also tell you, okay, what do I have to do to strive to get one step ahead?
Yeah, there's definitely that element of fear and perhaps lack of resources for a lot of South Asian media personalities here. And I completely agree with that. We need to be out more. We need to really put our faces. How was your particular experience when you have interacted with American media? Talk to me about how you thought they represented you and the content you were bringing on. And what was your personal experience in terms of how the narrative was told for a South Asian in those networks?
You know, it's funny. They didn't, I feel, at least this is how I felt, they didn't really see me as a South Asian person bringing something to their channel. They just saw, you know what are these brains bringing to my channel?
Nice.
That's the way I felt that, you know what, they were recognizing me for what I'm saying. They're recognizing me for how I'm saying it. You know, so they liked the package that I bought. It wasn't the color that I bought. The color added, probably, but you know what? I could have all the color and beauty and everything, but if I don't have the brains to deliver it, or I don't have what it takes to give my message clearly, there's nothing they could do for me. So I really felt that when they approached me to do different, I mean, we did one of the series that we did was about the politics.
Yes.
I was on the Democratic side, and then we had a Republican. These were full-fledged debates. And I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would be sitting and having political debates with people from other communities. But you know what? When I sat there, and even then, when I would sit around the table, everyone would sit there without notes, without papers or anything, and I would be there with like 50 papers in my hand, and they would all look at me like, oh my God, you did your homework. Why didn't I think of it? And I'm thinking like, wow, I did my homework. I must look like a geek here. But then, once they start talking, I didn't feel that they're better or I'm better. It was like, you know what? I agree with you, I disagree with you, and I would go head on with what my beliefs were.
Wow.
So it didn't, you know, I didn't feel like the channel treated me.
You really think the inclusiveness has to come from both ends. We can't just sit here and just blame one medium for not representing us if a lot of us are not representing ourselves in the media.
Yeah.
I just really think
I just felt like I
yes.
just went out and I tried. And you know what? The first time I got thrown into doing a live show, I didn't know how to do a live show. They said, okay, do a P2C. And I'm like, oh gosh, what is a P2C? So I'm like, who do I ask? Because if I ask anyone on my crew, what's a P2C? They're going to be like, and you're here to do a live show with us? So I'm like, okay. So I would just keep trying to get the words out of the people on the other end from the editor to say, okay, if you want me to do the P2C, how do you want me to do it? How do you want me to deliver it? And when they told me, okay, you know, walk from here, walk from there, that's when I realized what a P2C was. And I'm like, okay. So, you know, when I started doing live, it wasn't like I had classes or had courses.
Wow.
I just did it. And from there on, every event I did, it was one of my first, and I would just have to do my research and say, you know what, I just got to make it work.
Wow. You know, you've done so much incredible amount of work, especially in Sikh American Voices.
Thank you.
You know, when you look at the broad spectrum of news, you know, all of the big days that are being celebrated, from Sikh Awareness to Turban Day, you've been a huge part and basically have led media for so many organizations.
Thank you.
So, you know, as a fellow Punjaban, I have to ask you, where did sort of that passion and drive came from? You're literally one of the pioneer voices in Punjabi media, and you still, till date, dedicate yourself to so many nonprofits. I know it's not easy with all of the schedule you have. Talk to me about, you know, the passion you feel. I know you have passion for being a Sikh American, but to literally dedicate a whole career to basically raising those voices, that must have been incredible.
You know, it's fun. It definitely is fun. But like you said, the key word there was the passion.
Yeah.
You know what? If you don't have that passion, there's no matter what you do, it's never going to come out the way you want it to unless you believe in it. That's really what the bottom line is. I really believed in the causes. And there are many people that approach you for this cause or that cause. But if it's something, if I don't believe in it, I won't do it. I'll just pass it on and say, you know what, I can't, or, you know, this is not my topic, or this is not something that I'm interested in. But bringing a voice for the Sikh media was very important to me. One, being a woman, you know, I wanted women to feel in my community that being a woman, being a wife, being a mother, and being a business person, or just a working woman, you can still have a voice. Don't just stand behind the curtains just because someone doesn't want you to get out. You can't do that. And we've seen this time and again in our community, that women really sometimes are kept you know, you have to walk a step back.
So
but
true.
You know what, I'm glad. I have to say, like, my family never stopped me. I mean, I can be rebellious, I know, but they always saw that, you know what, there is a passion in her and what she's doing is right. As long as it's something right and it's for a cause, I felt there was a need to give awareness. And growing up, I myself went through bullying in schools, in high schools here, and in middle school. So I didn't have anyone to turn to. The only thing I could do was come home and cry and yell at my parents and scream and say, I want to go back to India. I don't want to do this. But you know what? You realize that as you're growing up, I don't want my kids to go through that. The only way I can't have my kids go through that is because if I give a voice to another child by telling my story, to say, you know what? You got to speak up. It's okay to say this. It's okay to go talk to someone. It's okay to share, or go to the school and talk to the administration. I felt there was a need to talk about simple topics like that. And that's all I really did, is just give a voice to that.
Has it been difficult for you, especially when you've worked with you know, Sikh advocacies that have worked, especially post 9/11, that continue to work on, you know, immigration rights, that continue to work on human rights, on hate violence, on school bullying? Has it been difficult sort of bringing forth issues that really impact people of your own?
I don't think it's been difficult. I think the biggest thing is that you have to be involved. You have to become a part of it, because I know almost all the organizations, you know, Sikh Coalition, SALDA, United Sikhs, they all have a platform where they go and they educate in schools what Sikhism is about, who Sikhs are, why do we wear a turban, and all that stuff. So it's not so much as difficult, it's just that you just have to get up and become a part of it.
Right.
And while doing all this, I signed up to be a part with Sikh Coalition. They asked if I wanted to come and be a member of it. And I said, yeah, there were many others like me around the country that did it. And we would go every single year. We would go during school years, we would go to different schools. While doing everything else that we do, we would go to schools and we would make presentations. This is volunteer work. You're not getting paid for it. To go and talk in schools who Sikhs are, what do we believe in, what do we stand for.
So basic Sikh awareness.
Basic Sikh
awareness,
settings. So we were required to do like 2 to 3 classes, 2 to 3 presentations a year. And this was something that was so close to my heart, with my kids growing up here, me growing up here. So I started doing, no joke, like you had to, in an average class, there are like, you know, 25 to 30 kids. And if you do 3 to 4 presentations, you're hitting about 100 to 120 kids a year.
Definitely.
So what I did is I took it to a whole different level, where we started from small. And we started doing auditorium classes for the schools.
Oh, the entire school would be there?
The entire school was there, and we would do a whole day session where their social study class, this entire day, has to go to the auditorium. So in a day, if that school has like 3,000 kids, I spoke single-handedly all day to 3,000 kids that day. And I would do 5 to 6 presentations like this the entire year. Every year. I did it for a long time, because you know what? I thought, it's very important to me, like I said, for others to understand why Sikhs wear turban. My husband wears a turban, my father wears a turban, my boys wear turbans. So it was important for me to educate people so they understood. So not, you know, like one of my kids got bullied. Me, without wearing a turban, just being brown, got bullied. I didn't want another person to feel what I felt. So that was an utmost passion for me.
You know, you brought up the bullying, and right before this interview, we were talking about it. For all our viewers that are watching, current statistics that I have on bullying, especially for South Asian Americans, especially Sikh Americans, the bullying in the last couple of years has increased up to 64%. So we're looking at Sikh American kids in middle school, high school, some elementary schools here being bullied, and that could be anywhere from a comment that is full of hate, you know, words that are not nice, to straight abuse and violence. You know, we've heard of podcasts being taken off. We've heard of, people being hit. When you're talking about having so many events of raising awareness, and then you see in the last couple of years the increase of just hate put towards Sikh Americans, talk to me about where does that make you stand in terms of raising Sikh American voices, and how does it make you feel as a parent, as a media person, to continuously face that and to see the problem getting worse? Now, how do we tackle that?
Well, take a look at what happened to Deputy Dhaliwal.
Yeah.
Okay.
In Texas,
what,
yeah. Such a
2
sad
weeks
story.
ago?
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, right? And of all the Sikh awareness that we do, this is what happened again.
Yeah.
But if you see, since Trump administration has come about, racism in overall has gone up.
Yes.
Hate crime attacks, not just against Sikhs,
Yes.
even against African Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, it has gone up. Do we get affected as Sikhs and South Asians for it? Absolutely, because there's always that mistaken identity for people who don't know who we are.
Yeah.
So when I see these things, and after the administration had come into place, I remember we were doing coverages almost every single week of 2-3 hate crimes, and the numbers were just going up, and it's like, what's going on? So we had to up our game to say, okay, you know what, we need to do more Sikh awareness. And now it's just not schools. Now you got to go to churches and do it. Now you got to go to local community centers. You have to go everywhere where it's not just adults, but younger generation. So they get educated. So as they're growing up, it's not, you can't use the word tolerance anymore. You can't say that, we have to be tolerant to each other's religion. No, I have to be accepting other people's religion.
So
I don't have to tolerate you.
Yeah.
I have to accept you. And that's the speech we needed to change. But you know what? It's never enough. It hurts me when I see young kids or people like Deputy Dhaliwal, being victims of this. But it only shows that, we think we're doing so much, but we don't realize we have so much more to do.
Gurmeet, it's been such a pleasure having you here.
Thank
My
you.
last question to you has to be, there are so many young faces looking up to you, and just on what is happening in this country right now. Youth, as everyone in most of these organizations say, is the next voice from the community. It's very important for us to put them out there. One key advice that you would give, to them, especially, being a mom, but also being a media personality, what should you think they should do in terms of awareing themselves more on the culture, in terms of where their place is in 2019, 2020? What is your take on that?
One thing I'll say is don't forget your roots.
Yeah.
Just don't forget your roots, where you came from, because that's who you are in here, okay? You were born in this country, or you're a citizen of this country, is what you became. But you were born as what your roots were, okay? Your religion, your culture, your background, that's your roots. You can never deviate from it. So don't ever think that you have to be like the guy next door. Just be good at what you are, and you'll be better than the guy next door. And I think at the end of the day, as for parents, I would say, just push your kids to whatever it is that they want to do. Just push them, because that's all that they need. And I think for the next generation, don't be afraid of hearing no. I have heard so many no's, Aditi. If I told you, there are so many yays and so many nays. But you know what? If I listened to every single no and I stopped, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I think it's very important for us to just, if you believe in it and if it's your passion, just keep going for it. And it's not always about the money, because anyone can make money. At the end of the day, it's how you make that money. Are you getting a respect with it? It's not just about, a big house and a car. It's about, can you sleep at night with it? So I think those are the key things that I always tell people, that just be happy and just keep doing what you're doing. And I have one thing to say to all the men in our community. Just always, if it's your wife and your daughter, just because she's a female, don't think she can't do it. Just believe in her and keep letting her do it. If she makes a mistake, it's your job to help her fix it, but don't berate her for it. And I'll tell you, my husband, one of my strongest supporters, and he's never stopped me. Anything I've ever always wanted to do, he's always been the first one to push me out the door. And I think I see that with my sons too now, even my daughter. I see that with them too. It's like, you know what, Mom? If I say there's something I can't do, why can't you do it? It's like, what makes you think you can't do it? And it's nice that I hear that from them now. So I think, that we just need to, as men in our community, they need to step up and let the women be the women and let them do what they want.
Oh, that's my favorite thing to discuss in South Asian community. Is literally that. I know I said one last question, but I actually want to end this interview on one last thing.
Sure.
I would love to know what kind of content are you currently working on?
Oh gosh.
What's in the creation? What is inspiring you in terms of what's happening around political or entertainment? Talk to us a little bit about that before we let you go from here.
Well, are the cameras off? Because I can talk about it once they're off, right? Well, you know what? I always keep my options open.
Yeah.
And I think I've told you this also many times when we talked, that just any option that comes your way, don't just shut it down.
Yeah.
Explore it. I always explore different options. And I've come from the finance world, I've come from the media world, I've come from marketing and sales world. So people are like, how do you do all this? And I'm like, you know what? I want to try it. If it's something I feel I can do, I'll do it. I've even taught kids. I've run a school, a culture school and camps.
Oh, wow.
With kids. And I never thought I would be able to deal with like 200-300 kids in a day. But yeah, I did it. So you know what? There are different things I always want to explore. I always keep trying. And I always say no. So whatever comes my way, if it's a good project on my table, I'll always entertain it. As long as it's not hurting anyone or me, I'm always open to it.
Are you definitely going to, do you see yourself doing some political awareness next year?
Absolutely.
And you think most of the
Why
South
not
Asian
this
media
year?
should do? Yeah, of course.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We should definitely do that.
You know what? We had done the presidential coverage last year with all the presidential debates.
Correct.
We covered that. We were the only ones doing it. So we've done that. We're looking forward to doing it again next year. So yeah, absolutely. You have to be out there. Just because it's American media doesn't mean it's not our media. It affects us, South Asians, as much. So yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. This is the best time. Like the debates, the campaigns, elections, love it.
And so many candidates. Thank you so much for your time, Gurmeet.
It was a pleasure, and thank you for having me here.
Of course, thank you. And that was none other than our own media tycoon here from the South Asian American media, Gurmeet Sodhi. Thank you so much for joining us on Inside Scoop. I'm Aditi Lamba, bringing you your voice, our voices. Stay tuned for another edition. Take care.